Howdy, howdy, y'all. It is another I Am That episode. Episode chapter 87. Keep the mind silent, and you shall discover. Alright, so just as commentary about the conversation in general, first of all, yes, it is, feels it is a shorter chapter by comparison. I mean, all of them are relatively short, like I say. I think the average is around what is it, four? The probably I think it's like typically they're all around four. I think the longest one I've seen on here is like maybe 7, 10 pages, something like that. If that, I think like it's more like seven. But this one's definitely, I feel like it's a little shorter. It's from, let's see, it's like 4 pages, 4 or 5 pages. It is an interesting one in that the title, because most of these titles, I mean, you will pretty much in any of the titles for these chapters, you will find them in the conversation itself in the chapter at some point. Typically, Maharaj will say that. Will say at least in part as a context for, and that's probably why they choose to name these chapters what they do. They just find something that sounds good. It's like, oh, let's name the chapter that, or something that sounds good and that describes the conversation. So with this one, it's really about how language. I would say a good way of describing this chapter is that they're having this conversation about language and how it can get in the way of, because it is its own universe. Literally, Maharaj says this. Be careful. The moment you start talking, you create a verbal universe, a universe of words, ideas, concepts, and abstractions, interwoven and interdependent, most wonderfully generating, supporting, and explaining each other, and yet all without essence or substance. Mere creations of the mind. Words create words. Reality is silent. So this is an interesting thing, right? So, and it's not like he's saying like these words. Yeah, so he's saying this the world that we understand verbal is it this separate, distinct thing from the world of from the reality, the actual reality. And so what he means by keep the mind silent, he's meaning saying like literally keep it silent, keep the words and abstractions and expectations and ideas out. This isn't just like when he talks about silence in these ways throughout these chapters. He isn't just talking about like an absence of noise, silence. He's talking about a silence of just of all the noise, of just not audio noise, obviously, of expectations, of thoughts, of all these distractions, all the nonsense, of all the circus noise that we call of life. Silence yourself from these things. That's what he's talking about in a lot of this stuff. Another interesting point, the questioner. Once I give up asking questions, what am I to do? Maharaj, what can you do but wait and watch? Questioner, what am I to wait for? Maharaj, for the center of your being to merge into consciousness. The three states, sleeping, dreaming, and waking, are all in consciousness. The manifested, what you call consciousness, will be manifested. In tune, beyond consciousness, altogether lies the unmanifested. And beyond all, and pervading all, is the heart of being which beats steadily. Unmanifested, no, manifested, unmanifested. Um, so, in other words, what I like about this response is that he's actually saying like, hey, once again, reiterating what he has says all the, time and time again. These states, the sleeping state, the wake state, all these states that we think of as separate states of mind are all actually one and the same thing. That there is no separation ultimately between the waking and dreaming because this is all a dream. So I like he brings that sort of thing into it. Another point I like a response to another question. The question, oh, actually, before I want to say a context I did find really interesting. At the beginning, the questioner talks about how they had this strange experience. He says, once I had this strange experience, I was not, nor was the world. There was only light, within and without, and immense peace. This lasted for 4 days, and when I returned to the everyday conscious, then I'd return to everyday conscious. Now I have a feeling that all I know is merely a scaffolding, a covering, hiding the building under construction. The architect, the design, the plans, the purpose. Nothing I know. Some activities going on. Things are happening. That is all I can say. I am scaffolding something very flimsy and short lived. When the building is ready, the scaffolding will be dismantled and removed. The I am and what I am are of no importance because once the building is ready, the I will go as a matter of course, leaving no question about itself to answer. And Maharaj says, "Are you not aware of all this? Is the fact is that it's not the fact of awareness the constant factor? So I like, and he has a point, and that's like literally how this all begins, and eventually gets down to us, this whole conversation about like language, really, because like I say, it becomes a conversation really of language. He it is interesting. Maharaj he's I think in other words he's kind of saying like because it feels like to me almost it's like this guy's been given a gift. He was given like this experience. The universe, the sage, the cosmos, whatever, gave him this experience. And then, and with this experience, more importantly, it gave him this knowledge, this an understanding of knowledge. And instead, he just he goes about, like, I think almost freaking out that he doesn't like he just feels like he almost lost something though after that. That's why I always find fun interesting when people have these sort of intense spiritual or psychedelic experience, and then like afterwards they're like, oh man, now I've lost something because I'm no longer in that state of mind. It's like no, you gained something. Like with my personal experiences with Krishna, for example, I feel like I still have gained something. I feel in tune with Krishna every day now, and much more so than in a way that obviously I just didn't before because I wasn't into Krishna before. He wasn't my deity, but like I say, that's a whole other more personal. Let's get back to the chapter. The point being, with all this, like I say, this chapter is very short, but like I said, lots of good points, especially towards the end. I would say, for me, where this chapter gets especially, I would say, I don't want to say it's good, but especially potent. I think is the word I would use. I think the potency of this is definitely like it's like a build up for like about the last like part of this conversation. Um, I would say it's about where it starts. Let's see. I would say it starts about here, where he says, "How the questioner? How am I the cause of fear?" Maharaj, all depends on you. It is by your consent that the world exists. Withdraw your belief in its reality, and it will all dissolve like a dream. Time can bring down mountains. Much more, much more you who are the timeless source of time. For without memory and expectation, there can be no time. And then the questioner, is the I am the ultimate? Maharaj, before you can say I am, you must be there to say it. Being need not be self-conscious. You need not know to be, but you must be to know. Let's repeat that. Before you can say I am, you must be there to say it. Being need not be self-conscious. You need not know to be, but you must be to know. So in other words, you must be a being to know things, but you need not know. Yeah. So like I say, it's one of those like whoa, it's one of those like little phrases you gotta like really sit down and think about over and over again. Like I say, I love how he does that. And then what I found funny is how then the questioner, sir, I am getting drowned in a sea of words. I can see that all depends on how the words are put together, but there must be somebody to put them together meaningfully. By drawing words at random, the Maharaj, the Bhagavad Gita, could never be produced. The theory of accidental emergence is not tenable. The origin of the meaningful must be beyond it. What is the power that creates order out of chaos? Living is more than being, and consciousness is more than living. Who is the conscious living being? And I love how Maharaj, this is like the last thing he says in this conversation, at least in this chapter, other than the quote I will read as well. But this and in this last part, this is probably my favorite part of the whole chapter, and I would just say, yeah, it's really good. Your question contains its answer. A conscious living being is a conscious living being. The words are most appropriate, but you do not grasp their full import. Go deep into the meaning of the words being, living, conscious, and you will stop running in circles, asking questions but missing answers. Do understand that you cannot ask a valid question about yourself because you do not know whom you are asking about. In the question, who am I? The I is not known. And the question can be worded as, I do not know what I mean by I. You are what you are, you must find out. I can tell I can I can only tell you what you are not. You are not of the world. You are not even in the world. The world is not, you alone are. You create the world in your imagination like a dream. As you cannot separate the dream from yourself, so you cannot have an outer world independent of yourself. You are independent, not the world. Don't be afraid of a world you yourself have created. Cease looking for happenings and the reality in a dream, and you will wake up. You need not know all the why and how. There is no end to questions. Abandon all desires. Keep your mind silent, and you shall discover. So I think that's just like in general, that's just been one of the better ways of him just responding and like using so many of these the ideas that he talks about, like how we are independent, not the world itself. It is we, like you as the individual, that is the one that we ourselves, our mind is what manifests this world before us. And then it's like that logic of like, then why would you be afraid of a world that you manifested? You created this world. Why would you be afraid of it? So, you know, and then yeah, I think it's just a really, it's just a very powerful last way of. I think it's a good way of finishing off of one of these conversations. Like I said, abandon all desires. Keep your mind silent, and you shall discover. Because, like I said, yeah, abandon all desires. That's just, like I say, a very staple part. Except for the desire that doesn't abandon desires, right? No. Well, the idea is to go transcend beyond that point. But anyways, I don't want to keep rambling on too much, so I will read the quote, and I think we'll call it good from there. At the end, like I say, there's always a quote at the end of these. I always like reading them, so let's read it. You need not be attached to the non-essentials. Only the necessary is good. There is peace only in the essential. As long as you are interested in your present way of living, you will not abandon it. Discovery cannot come as long as you cling to the familiar. So remember, just dive out of that comfort zone a little bit and don't be afraid of change. Because change, that's the constant of this life and of this world. Anyway, so I will see y'all later. Hare Krishna, Namaste, and peace. Peace be upon you all. Adios.